We create jobs and make entrepreneurial dreams come true. ACE, Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs, is a nonprofit community lender specializing in small business loans coupled with business advisory services. These are the stories of those businesses we've helped reach success and claim their American dream.
Welcome to ACE's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're going to focus on the journey of building a business. And so we're talking today with Eva Jane Bunkley, and she is the inventor of a product called the Makeup Bullet, which we have here on the... Yeah, so creating a product is a very interesting entrepreneurial journey.
Oh my goodness, that's not the hat.
So tell me a little bit, though, but before we get into the product itself, talk to me about your background, because you have a very interesting background.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a windy journey, and I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining me.
I started out, I'm originally from Ohio.
Yeah.
And I finished up at Ohio State with a degree in, I majored in textiles and clothing.
Okay.
And I thought that I was going to be a fashion stylist.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to dress people for movies and television and music videos. And when I relocated here to Atlanta, I had a few experiences working on some music videos, and they were just not what I expected.
And what do you think about that?
They were pretty raucous sets. I mean, it was, I'd have to shop for the people, and then, they say, well, I don't want to wear that. Go get this. And I'm like, so I have to go back and shop some more today, right now. The first video I worked on, I think they had me at the mall 3 times in one day.
Oh, wow.
In the same shoot day, because they kept changing their minds, and then they would add people, and then I'd see the makeup artists over in the corner, and they're just chilling, and I'm like, that looks a whole lot easier than what I'm doing, and I really
even if you like shopping.
Oh my God, I detest shopping now. I really do. So, I did a little makeup, and I studied a little makeup, theater makeup while I was in school. So I was like, maybe I'll just kind of focus on that.
Right.
So 24 years later, here I am with 2 Emmys under my belt for makeup, and I've worked on many films and television. I've been personal makeup artist to people. Primarily, my career has been in television news, though.
Okay. All right. And so you just, and I love the story, because I went to school for computer science to then end up at IBM, and I ended up at IBM and realized didn't really want to work at IBM. So you try to attain these goals, and then you find out that's not really the fit for me.
I know. And really, when I went to college, I kind of wanted to major in physics. But
yeah,
I was like,
that was not me.
What would I
do?
And I'm like, God, I would have been a physicist. That might have been exciting. But then maybe I would have still become a makeup artist, and that would have been really just totally off.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you, I just out of curiosity, so you got an Emmy for...
I earned 2 Emmy Awards for primarily news makeup.
Okay.
We have regional Emmys. So the Southeastern Emmys is comprised of maybe 7 states in the Southeast, something like that. And then there's the national Emmys, where you see the daytime Emmys with the soap operas and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I, back in 2001 and 2002, earned Emmys for some of my news work, and then there was a Christian broadcast that I worked on as well, and that was part of the compilation, because you submit, and then people judge all the submissions, and then you're nominated, and then of course the big ceremony where you
Red
go
carpet,
up, and the whole thing. The whole shebang. It's really exciting. So my first year, I wore this big light blue ball gown thing. I mean, it was just grandiose, and I was just, and my grandmother actually had passed just recently, and she raised me. So I took a big framed photo of her up on stage with me. It was just a very special moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So take me from that experience to deciding that you wanted to build a product. Why? What was the
Well, the product part of it, like I've always been attracted to being an entrepreneur. Even as a makeup artist, I was a freelancer since '96. I've been self-employed.
Yeah, I would think that that would be sort of entrepreneurial.
It can be.
Yeah.
Of course, you could work in counters and malls and that kind of thing. But if you're going to pursue, say, working with celebrities and working on different things, you have to kind of be freer. So I ventured out because I worked at a salon locally here called Van Michael for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was a makeup artist there in the Highlands.
Got it.
So I really, really enjoyed that. But when it came to like accepting some of these gigs that were a little more sexy and exciting, you needed to be free.
Right.
So I, ventured out with that. And then I've been kind of a serial entrepreneur. Even back in the mid 90s, I had makeup vending machines. And now they're like commonplace. You'll see them in the airport. I was like, yeah, I did that already, like a long time ago. Like I
makeup
tried
vending
that.
machine. So this,
Yeah.
they need those for me when I'm traveling all the time.
I
I've
know.
always forgotten something.
I know if you want a lipstick on the go.
Well, I mean,
so.
not makeup necessarily, but depends on where I'm traveling.
But as far as like actually creating a product from scratch, that was such a high idea for me. When I first thought of it, I did not venture out and do it because
But the idea of the thought of it, where did the thought come from?
well, it came from just everyday working life. I was literally on set. I was at one of our local news stations, and I was working on one of my anchors. And it's always time is of the essence. You got to hurry up, get them to set. Maybe they didn't sit down for the full time that you would like, and you got
Right.
10 minutes to get it done.
They're all divas.
Yeah, and those deadlines, they don't move. They got to go on when they got to go on.
Right.
And I found that because I'm a messy artist, I spread everything out all over the place, and I found myself constantly searching. And I'm like, I'm spending more time searching for things than I am actually putting makeup on this person's face. And I know they're looking at me like, okay, come on. And I'm
Right.
like, where did I set this? So one of those items that I found myself searching for was my makeup sponge, because that's kind of the go-to item when it comes to creating that final flawless look.
Got it.
It helps you blend, you apply, it's versatile. You can use it with a lot of different formulations, liquids, creams, powders. And I was like, if just this thing could be stuck to my finger. And it was just like an aha moment, literally. And I was like, I don't think that's out there. Like, I need to make a sponge that fits on your finger.
Right.
And I'm serious, it was about 10 years before I finally did it, because
Oh,
I was
wow.
just
So
very
you thought about
unsure.
it for 10 years.
I mean, I went to a friend of mine who was a little more seasoned as a makeup artist than I was, because I think I was in my late 20s at that time, somewhere around there. And I said, did all the non-disclosure, you do all that, you try to protect yourself. And I said, what do you think about this? And she wasn't sure about it. And the way she responded to me, I was so excited. I just thought that, she would automatically be like, this is the most amazing thing in the world. And it wasn't like that. It was just like, I don't know if I like that,
Yeah.
And just from that, I think being young and still just wanting that validation, I stepped away from it.
So, but you'd only asked one person. You didn't.
I
ask
only
a bunch.
asked one
Yeah,
person.
yeah. But I mean, it is important. There's the point of you want to solve a problem, and you want to make sure it's not just your problem.
Yeah,
right?
and
But-
I thought I picked like the epitome of the type of person who would have the same problem as me.
Was she a messy makeup artist?
I don't know. She's actually not a messy makeup artist.
See,
So
that
maybe
maybe
that's
that's
what
the
it what.
thing.
You know what,
Yeah.
Eric? I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So
Because you see, you're talking about this. My daughter is an artist, and
Uh-huh.
she's a messy artist. I love
Okay.
her, but
Yeah.
she's a messy artist. Like, there's stuff everywhere.
Exactly.
trying to
And that's
figure
how
out
I thrive.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, like it at some point it gets like a little beyond me and you have to kind of pull it back. But it's while the process is happening,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's a part of the joy of creation.
Okay, so you put it on a shelf,
I put it on a shelf.
and then you decide at some point, yeah, I'm going to pursue that.
Well, and I guess, I just need one person. I was on a panel years later of at a makeup artist conference, and there was another lady who's just a beautiful soul. She was working as for a company that manufactured other types of beauty tools,
Okay.
brushes and that
Yep.
kind of thing. And I said, you know what? Maybe she would be somebody that I could ask. So I asked her for a sidebar, and we met up, just another day. And I told her about the idea, and she said, Eva, I have been to beauty shows all over the world, and I've never seen anything like that. You could be sitting on a gold mine. You need to do this right now.
Right.
And that one person again.
So one told you not to, and then another one told you to. I like it. Okay.
So then that meeting, I met her in January initially, and by December, I had my first prototype in my hand.
Wow.
And with those prototypes...
So what was the dates again? You met her when? And then...
I met her January, and then I made tons of phone calls the next few months to find out, like, who would do this for me? Like,
Right.
How do I get this done? I was like, I know what type of material I need, so I just reached out to manufacturers that made foam. Okay. But then, that manufacturer doesn't necessarily, turn it into what I needed. So
Right,
then I
right.
need a different manufacturer that you call like a converter
Okay.
to make it into what I needed. And there were so many companies that told me no, as far as no, I wouldn't we don't work with small businesses,
Right.
because they don't know what you're gonna, if you have the
I'm sure they get a
tenacity
ton of
to,
calls
yeah,
and,
exactly. And it's like, they got their thing going and they don't want to interrupt that
Right.
to take the risk. And I get it.
Yeah.
But finally I did find one company that was willing to work with me. And it was a referral from a guy, I used to work at a company that did maybe them, So it was a lot of phone calls, and then it was a lot of them trying to perfect. And that took that long in December for me to get those. So with those samples that I had, I did a little focus group among other artists. That time I just brought a few more people into it, and including my original friend that I asked.
10 years ago.
And, she was, and I don't fault her because, it's not
just
that. But she came back, she said, I love it.
Right.
How can I help?
Yeah.
And she's been just a cheerleader for me ever since.
Right.
So, I think sometimes, but the market too, between that time, was primed for it because another product came out from another artist, Rayanne Silva, on the West Coast, called Beauty Blender. And it's been, an amazing product to a lot of people, as far as like how it's revolutionized the shape of sponges and just kind of gotten a lot of excitement behind
So
new
it's
innovation.
Time for sort of like the
So-
spinner craze right now.
Yeah.
You can find a ton of different kinds of spinners.
Yeah. So it's been, I think the timing was right for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so from the focus group, then you were able to perfect the prototype, and then you moved from prototyping to actual manufacturing. Were you using the same group, or was it a different group to do the manufacturing of the product?
Same manufacturer. And by May, they hadn't perfected the process yet. Like some of the first spongers are a lot more crude than the what we have now, but still they were sellable and I could test the market. So I went to a B2C trade show in New York, specifically for professional makeup artists.
Got it.
That's what that show was. People just like me. And they made enough that I could make 50 3-pack boxes to sell, plus a few little extras to give out to special, famous artists. If I saw them walking around, I'm like, here, you don't have to buy it. Here, please try this. This is something I created. So by the morning of the second day, we were sold out.
Very cool. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that you needed to get to where you are today.
Yeah.
It's not just about creating the product, it's about getting it off the shelf. So what happened after that show, those kinds of things. So
Sure.
You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today with Eva Jane Bunkley, and she is the inventor of the makeup bullet. The makeup bullet.
You got
We'll be back
it.
in just a minute.
If it wasn't for Ace, my business may have closed in 1 year.
If it wasn't for Ace, my business wouldn't be expanded as much as it's expanding right now. They were there for me at the time of my need.
If it wasn't for Ace, we would not be here today.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Ace, I would very much still be cooking at an hourly rate, and I would have never impacted hundreds of lives and an entire community.
I still remember going to different kind of banks, big banks, and with papers, and these people send me back because I don't have, I had experience in the restaurant business, but I don't have, everything else this bank needed. And I believe in me.
I did the research in Adult Day. I had experienced it personally because my grandfather had Alzheimer's. So I wanted to do the business myself, get into it because I knew I could make a difference.
Initially, when we started, there was only one person, which would be me. And then the company have grown from 1% to 8, and we provide quality assurance, quality control testing for FDA-regulated companies.
I think Grace not only completely understands what it's like to start off in an office connected to your laundry room or wherever she was, but she also understands the growth process. And I think that she does an excellent job of making sure that everybody who works with ACE has an understanding of the kind of struggles and celebrations that you can have.
ACE has helped us with putting our business idea into the market, working with us with the business, actually working, actually showing us, guiding me personally, how to solve some of my marketing issue problems or with the business planning.
You don't meet many lenders that are invested in your success. And, from their classes or presentations, seminars, they really do have a vested interest in your success.
The best advice I can do to small business owners is follow your dreams. Always follow your dreams, follow your heart.
Have a plan. Just because you have a passion for it doesn't mean that you can start a good business.
Get ready for the ride of your life, and definitely make sure that you look out for fantastic resources like ACE.
ACE is a way to go.
You're just the best. They really are.
And we're back. You're listening to Ace's Best Stories. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We're talking today with Eva Jane Bunkley. She is the inventor of the makeup bullet, which we have here with us. The makeup bullet, yes. So, and that was a product, I'd say, sort of almost 10 or 12 years in the making from when you had originally thought about it to the point of...
It was a while.
Yeah. So when we left from the last segment, you were talking about, going to this B2C show, and you said you had 53 units. So you had 53 of these, or...
I had 50 boxes that I intended to sell.
Okay.
That had like 3. They came in 3s at first.
Okay,
yeah, they came in 3s.
So
now I have a single.
Okay. How did that go? How'd the show go?
The show was amazing.
Was it?
Yeah, the show was great. I mean, we sold out the morning of the second day. And I was like, okay, I think I have a hit. And the following year, when I went back to get positive feedback and have people repurchase and that kind of thing, and then some of the retailers, I met retailers there that had beauty stores,
Got it.
Big beauty stores,
Which is what you want.
Is exactly
distribution.
Because and you want distribution in the right places where your customers go. And I think that was one lesson that I learned early on, even when I was doing the vending machines that I was telling you about, is, placement in the right places.
Well, so tell me about that. So what's placement in the right places for you, and how did you know it?
Well, I think sometimes what happens is when you first launch a product, you're so happy anybody wants it.
Absolutely.
That you just put it everywhere.
Right.
But you might only get that initial purchase, and you're like, wow, the person loved it or whatever, the buyer, but their customers, they don't have the right type of traffic.
Right.
So I've been really focused on beauty stores. So coming up, Ulta, we're beginning with Ulta.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm very excited about that. We're going to start with the .com. And let's see, the Middle East has been where mass distribution occurred first, was the Middle East for me.
Huh.
Literally.
Explain that.
Instagram.
Oh, okay.
I did a lot of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I hit those, running ads, that kind of thing, getting exposure. If a celebrity used my product, I would, there was one of the Atlanta Housewives that used my product on air. I'd ran an ad with that. That boosted sales. So I think the influencers, Nicole Concilio, Nikki Tutorials did a review. So when you have that type of, I guess you call it people who are the influencers, basically. People are following their lead.
Take advantage of that.
Then lots of times what happens is those stores will come to you and say, hey, we want to carry it. But, hopefully they're the type of stores where they'll get that repeat business because that's what's good.
How did you know that a store would get repeat business? What's the definition? Like, what have you learned is the...
Beauty stores have been the best, like where people actually go for beauty.
Yeah, so when you say that, you mean like an Ulta or something like that?
Like an Ulta.
But not a big box store. It doesn't work well in a big box store.
It's going to be a little more... the traffic isn't necessarily, you want to appear there.
Right.
You definitely want to be there, but all of the traffic is going to be a little more diluted towards, I'm coming in for a dress or I'm coming in for.
And I'll pick this up as a side.
Yeah. So, but it's great to be in those big box stores. Like for instance, I'm in Dillard's.
Oh, wow.
And that was like our first major department store here in US. And that's been wonderful because they have a section called the Edge Beauty. And it's for those kind of special products that aren't necessarily a part of huge lines.
Yeah.
So my product fits perfectly into a place like that.
So talk to me. So it sounds like, other than maybe only listening to one friend and then listening to one friend again, you've moved along at a nice clip. Where did you run into some issues?
Oh God, there's so many issues. Well, let me say this, because here's what I've learned is being around the right resources really helps. So I really try to align myself with professional organizations, going to networking groups, meeting other entrepreneurs. One of the first things that I did, I went to an SBDC Grow Smart class.
Okay.
And
SBDC
that was
is
the Small Business Development
Center.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I always say counsel.
I think it's center. Yeah.
Center. The SBDC was instrumental just early on, kind of helping to increase my business acumen. Like read this book, The E-Myth, Michael Gerber, like one of those,
I love E-Myth.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And then for instance, with the ACE Women's Business Center, they held a pitch competition.
Okay.
But it wasn't just a competition. They actually helped you prepare for the pitch and learn how to pitch that 90-second pitch.
Got it.
So that was beneficial because I'm like, and I came in third place and won $350.
Awesome.
Which I put towards a 3D printer for my next product. So
she got the 3D printers going
I got the 3D printer now. So and then, when opportunities arise, like other competitions, or you're in that network, so they think of you. So I'll get, Karen will send me a little email and say, hey, Eva, there's this thing coming up. This might interest you. Or we have this networking event or things like that.
So professional organizations, some of these resources.
Definitely. Because the thing is, when you do run into those challenges, it's just like, okay, who do I turn to? Because I can't stay within my own head all the time and try to work these things out.
So tell me a challenge, though. Is it money? Is it knowing how to file your taxes?
It's always
doing
money.
HR? What is
It's always money. HR, HR, I'll tell you about that. Like, for instance, I consider my business still a very bootstrapping business. I started with about $30,000 that I pulled out of a retirement account that I'm like, I can't retire on $30,000, so let me just use this because this is really something I believe in.
Right.
But in the process of that,
days, just to build off that, because I talk with financial planners and that seems to be risky and foolhardy, right? But they'll tell you, and they tell me, you know yourself the best, and so if you want to make that bet, you understand that even better than maybe the investment in a company that you only know about from the news or things like that. So
exactly. And it's made the money back
right.
many times over since then. But everything I do, since I am self-funded for the most part, goes right back into the business.
Right.
So, things like attending trade shows, which are vital. I mean, that's how I met Dillard's, was a Vegas trade show. I just went to Bologna, Italy 3 months ago for the largest beauty trade show in the world.
Went to Italy for a trade show.
But literally, I met a distributor in Russia, and they're going to distribute for 5 surrounding their country and 4 of the surrounding countries. And we just signed that deal last week.
Awesome.
So when you start to, get on this level to where, okay, you want to grow, you're going to have to do those things that help you grow. So sometimes really what I need more so is moral support.
Right.
And when you go to those professional organizations, they've been dealing, like I deal with the Trade Assistance Export Office too. And I have a consultant there, and he helps me. And sometimes it's just, they've dealt with 500 U's.
Right.
So they can tell you you're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Don't give up right now. Push through. And for me, that's one of the biggest things, because I'm like, is my business always going to be this broke? Am I always just going to put everything back into it?
Yeah.
But these are those growing years. So for me, what I need is that assurance. Look, as if you could you see from my first story? Hey, what do you think about this? I try to glean information from people who I think, have a wealth of knowledge in an area.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I move forward. So sometimes, I think what they say, wisdom is found in a multitude of counsel. I think that's the thing I need to exercise more so, not just like one. So I've surrounded myself with a lot of different counsel from organizations that can give me good advice, because of they're dealing with a lot of people just like me.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship has been presented as this kind of, you see on TV, it's this rock star thing, and it's very lonely, and it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's a triathlon, because you have to learn how to swim, bike, like run.
Totally.
You have to do all these things that maybe
Totally.
And you don't like one of them. There's one that
admin is I'm a self-diagnosed dyslexic. I swear.
Right.
I get numbers and all that just jumbled up, confused. I'm tactile and I'm visual, so I still keep a paper planner.
Yeah.
I can't go digital. It confuses me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I can't go paper. I've tried it a couple times, and then I just
But your strengths.
falls off.
Yeah, when I was listening to the webinar, when you said, or the whiteboard, I'm like, thank you. Thank you, the whiteboard, because I cannot do that little chart.
As simple as a whiteboard.
Oh my God, Excel,
Right.
That is the most frustrating program in the world to me. I just don't understand how people read those.
All right, so future for you. Future for the business, you have other ideas? Or
Yeah, I have my next product, just like it's in the CAD phase. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. It's
print
just
it out on your 3D printer.
I think I'm gonna do a different. Like my consultants they want to go a different route with this one, but
So you're working on new products, new product lines for the business.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else
expanding
for future?
For future, well, I am a mommy too. I have an 11-year-old and 13-year-old, so really, school and what their futures, and that takes over a lot of what I'm thinking, and all that I'm doing here. They're in mind. Yeah. So, just growth, expanding. I have a deal working for UK, UK and the surrounding areas. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that kind of having kids in the house who watch you hustle this way, it's a great lesson.
It is. And they appreciate it. I do their career days and come out, and they just kind of, sit over there smiling and yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So, and the one thing I wanted to ask,
Sure.
you had the creation of the product, but then also the box the product is in.
Mm-hmm.
Was that its own thing?
It was, and that was a race to get those the initial box. That's the second generation box. Like they'll tell you, one guy called, he was like, "Yeah, okay, one that'll be $350." I was like, "For one?" Like just even the prototype of I'm like, "One?"
Yeah.
The 300 and after that, and I was just like,
after
okay,
that there'll be 310.
So I find ways to like using local. That cuts my cost. So I drive, I pick up everything. I don't deal with shipping.
Yeah.
When it comes to the packaging, because it's heavy. Like already. But I know Photoshop, so I designed my first initial package. I designed my logo. I did all of that. I'm creative. So I can get myself to a point, and then when it has to be like super polished and like fit into certain parameters for people to understand more, then I kind of pass it off.
Yeah, that's an important lesson to build those kind of first minimum viable product. It can be ugly, quote unquote, until you polish it out just to see what people think of it.
Yeah, like when I went to Dillard's, the lady who's in the art department, she was like, the logo looks a little fuzzy. I'm like, well, I did in Photoshop. Like, I don't know Illustrator. So then I had to have my manufacturer like, okay, I'll use your graphic artist. Can you just redesign my logo in Illustrator now?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, and I have so much appreciation for people like you that build physical product, because it's a harder deal. Like anyone doing technology or things like that, they have no idea like what it takes to get to something like this, that we take for granted. You walk down the store aisles and see these things all the time, and there's so much that goes into it. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And you're
so
certainly
much.
one of Ace's best stories. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing it with us.
They have been a blessing, definitely.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us. We've been listening to Ace's Best Stories. We've been talking to Eva Jane Bunkley. She is the inventor of the Makeup Bullet. You can find information about the Makeup Bullet and about Eva on our show notes and also across our social media. Make sure you tune in next time to Ace's Best Stories.
We create jobs and make entrepreneurial dreams come true. ACE, Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs, is a nonprofit community lender specializing in small business loans coupled with business advisory services. These are the stories of those businesses we've helped reach success and claim their American dream.